Hello everyone, I'm Norman Wahlberger and I want to talk to you today about mathematics and music, which are of course well known to be quite closely connected. And just to introduce you to my TikTok venture, which I've just started. So it's well known that for young people, the study of music, maybe particularly the piano, helps with mathematical achievement in the younger years. And that's well documented. It's also well known that mathematicians generally are maybe more musically inclined than the average person. So it's quite common for mathematicians to be quite skilled in some musical instrument. I've been playing the piano since I was a kid. I'm a decent player. I'm not great, but I find it really lovely thing to do. And I also used to play the saxophone a little bit in high school and in my university years. So I'm interested in the mathematical aspects of this, not just the creative musical side. In particular, I'm interested in sort of this theoretical question of, how do we set up music? How do we think about it? What's the framework that we think about sort of the melodic structure as well as the harmonic structure of music? And I think there's some potentially sort of interesting topics here to discuss. I think a lot of modern sort of, pop music or mainstream music is actually quite limited, especially harmonically, but also melodically. Even though the technical production side of things is really good. But so I would like to sort of expand our understanding and expand our thinking about what is possible with respect to music. So you'll all know, I suppose, that modern Western music, at least, comes in sort of a standard sort of structure based on a scale, okay, and like the C scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, okay? And then there's sort of versions, minor scales, and there's various chords, triads being the main ones, the simplest ones, major triad, minor triad, and then there's, seventh chords, and then modern jazz has all kinds of more sophisticated chords. So there's well-known rules for how these things can be put together, but in modern times, in the 20th century, these rules were expanded quite a lot and things became much more flexible than they were previously. So when we play something from the 17th or 18th century, sometimes it can sound a little bit predictable or maybe a little bit uninteresting harmonically. With the exception, a very notable exception of J.S. Bach, who is sort of an exceptional figure, quite different from everybody else. But still, the general thrust of Western music, at least, has been in this context of this sort of melodic structure provided by the scales. And so there's a C scale, and there's a scale sort of starting on any one of the 12 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we get back up to C again. And the way we think about that whole structure and the way sort of the harmonic rules are for various aspects of music, whether it be jazz or rock or classical or bebop or whatever, that's sort of interesting. There's some agreed upon structures, and it's interesting to investigate, sort of from the theoretical point of view, what justification do we have for these structures, and what alternatives are there, and just exactly how these things are structured. So I'm not an expert on music theory, but I have been playing around for quite some time, and I'm interested in sort of exploring the boundaries of the way we usually do things. So, which brings us to my little TikTok adventure. So I've got this TikTok site. I guess my name is NJ Wildberger. And I'm going to play a few classical pieces there, okay? Not necessarily particularly expertly, but just to give you a sense. Sounds like you can contrast it with the far superior professional music that you can easily hear. That might be interesting. But also maybe more interesting is I'm going to give you some improvisations, that I just sort of make up on the spot, which which might be interesting for you just to sort of see how you react to them and whether there's some emotional connection with some of the pieces or which ones, or whether you find them interesting or boring. That's all sort of interesting. And in particular, I'm trying to get people to think a little bit on a broader scale. Okay, so I maybe encourage you to have a listen to one or two of my TikTok improvisations and see what you think. And I hope to have an occasional talk with you about music and maybe the mathematical side of it. I'm Norman Wahlberger. Thanks for listening.